My name is Monica Nelson, and the title of my performance is Fanny Brin, A Woman's Voice for Peace. In 1920, after 72 years of protest, struggle, and fight for justice, women were given the right to vote. With the passage of the 19th Amendment, the debate had ended. But for many women, the debate had only just begun. They believed, before 1920, we could say ours was not the blame. But now no more. Now we are citizens with responsibility for our country's decisions. Fanny Brin understood the role that women could have in debating the issues of the day, particularly for the right of all people to live in a peaceful world. She was a voice for peace at a time when women were not accustomed to making their voices heard. It is interesting to note how greatly the work of women has changed within our own lifetime. Not long ago, we were interested in the rights of women. Now we talk of the responsibilities of women. Not so long ago, you and I were engaged in educating, lecturing, parading, fighting to secure the rights of women in the political world. Now all that has changed. We are now becoming aware of our responsibilities to shape the world in which we live. Women have begun to realize that they have a stake in world stability and abolishing war. Oh, good afternoon. I'm just preparing for an upcoming speech I'm giving in New Orleans next month for the NCJW, the National Council of Jewish Women, at our 14th triennial meeting. So why am I giving so much of my life to the cause of world peace? Well, simply put, I am a woman and a citizen of this American democracy who votes. I was born to Jewish parents, and we immigrated to the United States from Romania when I was only 3 months old, in 1884. One of the first things I remember is hearing my father say, "Speak United States," whenever any of us would speak in Yiddish. I was fortunate to receive my college education at the University of Minnesota, mostly because of my father, who wanted the girls in the family to get a good education. Later I met Arthur Brin, the love of my life. We now have 3 children, and we live in Minneapolis, near Lake of the Isles. I am currently the president of the NCJW, and I must say it has been such a rewarding experience. Since its inception, our organization has been focused on charity work, primarily with assisting new immigrants as they settled into this country. And although this was and still is noble work, I believe the time has come for the NCJW to make a real impact on the world. We must advocate for the right of all people to live in a peaceful world. The question of world stability and world security is therefore of paramount importance. I believe that attaining peace is especially the work of women, the mothers of men. As mothers, the bearers of children, and guardians of youth, we are interested in shaping the world in which our children must live. But how can we rear our children carefully, plan their education, painstakingly shape their future, and ignore the fact that all this may be worthless in a world which lives under the constant threat of destruction? Now, some say that women's duty is in the home, and that's where they should stay. Even President Grover Cleveland said, "It should be boldly declared that the best and safest club for a woman to patronize is her home." The relative positions to be assumed by men and women in the working out of our civilization were assigned long ago by a higher intelligence. For my part, I cannot understand the woman who stands aloof, indifferent, apathetic, ignorant. Whatever progress there is will be the result of clear and firm public opinion, and in the making of that opinion, organized women can do a great deal. The World War, in which 32 nations participated, was a war to end war. People thought it was splendid that this was a war to end war, a crusade for peace and brotherhood. We believed those who ought to know about such things, presidents, congressmen, and ministers. But now we must debate them. We must debate the premise that peace must be obtained through war. Is our civilization to be that which is built upon the conception that we can settle questions which trouble nations by sending millions of our carefully reared youth to die and inflict death? Is it to be a civilization in which nations emphasize fear, suspicion, and hate, forgetting their common humanity and all that unites them? Is it to be a civilization in which nations pour out more and more of their treasures on battleships and fortifications, treasures that should be spent taking care of its citizens and raising the standards of life? We must do our part by appealing to our elected officials to resolve conflict through arbitration and negotiation, by removing required military education in our schools, by producing pamphlets and holding conferences and conventions to educate citizens on the alternatives to military aggression. Most of all, we desire an international organization dedicated to the cause of world peace. It is true that men make the roads, but it is also true that it is the women who teach little children to walk. We have almost unlimited power to educate and create public opinion. We must organize the motherhood of the world for the peace and purity of our homes and of our world. Looking back over those years, the NCJW continued to grow, and it had nearly 40,000 members. We then became involved with the National Committee on the Cause and Cure of War, founded in 1926 by Carrie Chapman Catt. In 1934, Mrs. Catt named me one of the 10 most outstanding women of the year, an honor I especially cherished. But as the 1930s faded, it became clear that neither the vote nor all of our lobbying efforts had attained a permanent peace. The 10 years, from 1935 through 1945, were difficult years for the peace movement. But everything depended on who emerged victorious from this conflict. Those nations which supported the values of force, or those which supported the values of reason. Finally, the day came. After all of our lobbying and education efforts, we were given a glimpse of hope. On April 25th, 1945, near the end of World War II, representatives from 51 of the world's nations came together in San Francisco to write a charter for a new international organization, the United Nations. In recognition for my peace work, I was chosen as an official alternate for the Women's Action Committee for Lasting Peace. That event symbolized my beliefs, my hopes, my dreams, and my faith that this is a perfectible world. Now, some may say that as long as there is war, our cause has failed. But I refuse to give up hope. We will succeed. The winning of war is a matter of years. The winning of peace is a matter of generations. Should we not realize that the greatest of our labors lie before us, and that unless we build a peace machinery with devotion and consecration, and demobilize the war machinery bit by bit, our buried dead will be able to say to us, in all justice, there is no rest for me, no sleep, no peace, because the thing that killed me and my buddies, and that French soldier and his buddies, and that German fellow and his buddies, that monstrous thing, war, is still alive in our world. And when we cry out to them, in the words of the poet, "Who goes there in the night, across the wind-swept plain?" they will answer, "We are the ghosts of a valiant war, 1,000,000 murdered men." And when they call back, "Who goes there in the dawn, across the sun-swept plain?" will we be able to answer, "We are the hosts of those who swore it shall not be again."